I want to ask you, what does stewardship mean to you and how does it inform your coaching approach?
Yeah. So stewarded path, first and foremost, stewarded path is what I have felt called to do. I'd love to just kind of like start from the standpoint of like entrepreneurship is something, even though I have my MBA, even though I am pursuing my doctoral degree in business, it is
Uh-huh.
something I would have never imagined for myself stepping into that world of entrepreneurship.
Uh-huh.
So stewarded path is that's what my calling is. That's what I've been called to do and entrusted with regards to being having that as my medium to be able to share my gifts with others because these gifts are not for me. Right,
Uh-huh.
they're, to be shared with the world and to serve and make a positive impact, and so when I think about Stewarded Path and why that name, it's a way to honor what God has entrusted, me with, what He has entrusted my clients with.
Right.
So this could be like your gifts, this could be your capacity, your family, your leadership, your healing, no matter what like season you are in. And so
Uh-huh.
how can you take what you are entrusted with and care for it well?
Welcome to the Lived Experiences podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamia Ryan. We're back with another episode. I'm joined by Lorena Wade, a certified life coach, speaker, serial entrepreneur, and global advisory healthcare consultant. Through Stewarded Path, Lorena supports women with evidence-based coaching that honors the whole person as they navigate leadership, transition, motherhood, caregiving, entrepreneurship, anything you can think of that really relates to personal and professional growth. Lorena brings over 15 years of healthcare leadership experience to her work, most recently serving as a former VP of operations for a national behavioral health organization. She holds an MBA, multiple business and coaching certifications, and is currently pursuing her doctorate in business. But what truly shapes her work is her lived experiences as a mother. I'm so excited to have you on today to share your story, to share about the work that you're doing, how you blend professional and personal expertise together to support women. And thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Ryan. This is such an honor and a privilege.
Thank you. I like to kind of just jump right in and ask folks to talk about their journey. Can you share your journey through leadership and what drew you to that type of work? Because it's hard work. And sometimes people, when they think about being a leader, all of the extra stress, all of the extra responsibility, what made you choose that as your lane to go into?
I think I'm gonna have to take us way back to when I was
Yes.
um, a little girl. So I always knew that I would be in healthcare. Since I was very young, I thought that it would be serving as and making an impact as a clinician. So when I was young, I thought that I'd be a pediatrician, that was my calling and my path.
Yeah.
So I went into undergrad as a bio pre-med major thinking, okay, med school, that's how I'm going to help others, help people. And then as I went into and had to take anatomy, I realized rather quickly I do not have the stomach to be a physician. So I need to pivot really fast. And so at the time I realized, well, I can still serve and maybe I do something where I'm not having to be inpatient, but I can do outpatient work. And I got my bachelor's of science in sports medicine, thinking I'd go down the path of getting my doctorate degree in physical therapy. As I was getting my clinical observation hours, I got an opportunity to get into some operations work for a small business physical therapy clinic. And that's where things kind of just started to fall into place with regards to opportunities that came my way. And I had clinicians and supervisors, leaders that would come to me and tell me like, "Hey, you understand things from the clinical standpoint, but you just have it just comes very natural to you. You have this knack for understanding like the ecosystem and operations, and that's really great, and that's really important. That's really different. And so maybe you might want to look into getting your MBA." And at the time, I was like, "No, absolutely not. I was put on this earth to be a clinician." And
Yeah.
I'm going to get my doctorate in physical therapy, and I am going to serve and help people that way.
Mhm.
And sure enough, just life took me in a different direction. I started to get these opportunities, and at that point, it was just something I couldn't deny anymore. Of like, I think this is really the different pathway for me that my true calling,
Mhm.
and I can still help others and make an impact still in healthcare, but just from an administrative standpoint. So I went back to my alma mater to Pepperdine. So I'm a two-time Pepperdine alum. I went and did an executive MBA program with them while I was working full time as a director of operations. And you know it. I think leadership just called me.
Yeah.
That was something, and that's been quite the journey, also, my leadership journey with regards to being, able to understand and know the responsibility, of leadership and the leader that I want to be and how do I want to show up. I've learned that that has to be incredibly intentional. Everyone, has their lessons learned, and I sure have. And it's something that has been very important to me that then I speak to these lessons learned and share
Right.
with regards to the ways that I navigated leadership, and then how and how I was able to get to where I am today. And my hope through my coaching is that I'm able to serve and be the guidance that I felt that I needed that I didn't have at the time as I was rising through the ranks of leadership, so that others don't make those same mistakes.
Mhm.
So that others can do things much more effectively and efficiently, so that others are able to show up in a way that is still authentically themselves.
Yeah.
But you can do it in a way that's still very beautiful, very vulnerable, and with a lot of humanity, because also a lot of people associate being a leader with I have to be very stoic and
Right.
not show my emotions, and that's not true. I think a true leader shows some vulnerability and shares parts of themselves.
Mhm.
I think the humanity of it is what's missing a lot today in the workforce. It's
Yes. Yes. And thank you for sharing that and taking us back to kind of how you got to where you are today. I love the part that you said about being intentional because I talk a lot about like the buzzwords that we hear and, we see the hashtags and things like that. But what does being an intentional leader mean to you? Like, how does that represent in the day to day workplace?
Yeah, so that's such a great question. And every day, because I'm not a robot, I'm human, right? I've had um, my direct reports come to me or just colleagues come to me and say like it looks like it's just so easy for you. It looks like you just do this with such a finesse, especially maybe having some hard conversations, right?
Right.
um those things never get easy. It's just, one, I'm always wanting to learn and get more tools for my toolbox.
Mhm.
Two, it's been so important to me that I am always looking at myself from the lens of how can I continue to improve because I'm not perfect. I
Yeah.
have my areas of opportunity. And then three, how can I always meet my people where they're at? And really looking at like my audience. Who am I speaking to and what do they need from me? And I think that's also a really important part of leadership, and knowing that there's not just one leadership style, that there's many leadership styles that you
Mhm.
need to be able to lean into. It just depends on what the person that you're speaking to, what do they need, and can you meet them where they're at?
Right.
And so for me, that being able to have that flexibility, that adaptability, that is a lot of the work that I've done internally, to be able to show up in the way that I need to show up. And sometimes that can be really hard, right? Because I am human, I'm not a robot, and being very intentional in like my energy and the work that I do internally for myself so that then I can be there and show up. Um, how my people need me to show up, how my clients need for me to show up, and be able to provide that safe container for my clients, to
Mm-hmm.
really like slow down. And the same with when I was in the corporate world with like my direct reports, the directors that would report to me. I mean, I would have a workforce of 400
Mm-hmm.
clinicians and admin staff. That's a lot. And so
That's a
then
lot.
that means that like each of my directors had quite a number of people that reported to them as well. And so that's a lot to carry. So
Yeah.
showing grace, showing a level of vulnerability, because if I'm showing up in a way that is that a true leader needs to show up for their people, I'm
Mm-hmm.
role modeling so that then they can show up for their people how they should be showing up, right? And really being able to pour into them, ensure that they have all the tools, resources, and information that they need to be able to do their jobs because at the end of the day, our patients feel it.
Right. And, I'm listening to all of the things that you've accomplished, working, parenting, holding down these high level positions. And, going back to, being a mother and trying to do all of this with everything on your plate, can you talk about that experience and how that shaped both your personal life and your professional work?
Yeah. I think being a parent changes you.
Mhm.
I think that there's been some additional layers throughout my journey that have um both humbled me and strengthened me and softened me, um, at the same time and in just many different ways.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's all been such a blessing. I've gone through an infertility journey. I've gone through miscarriages. And so for Lauren, my 3-year old, who's my firstborn,
Mhm.
she has been prayed for. I've gone through thousands of injections for her.
Yeah.
And it was such a blessing to know that. So she was our second embryo transfer that did take.
Okay.
And so it was so amazing, such a gift. And then I gave birth, and at 5 weeks old, we almost lost her to a very rare medical condition. And so that was very also traumatic
Yeah.
to go through, to see her completely paralyzed, for her to be in the NICU for over a month. Um, so having and then seeing her journey like post NICU, because she's globally developmentally delayed and also on the spectrum.
Okay.
Um, so she's had a journey of needing like a higher level of care throughout like her lifetime. She's a little warrior and she's only 3 and she's gone through so much. Um, and then there's my Chloe,
Mhm.
who in her own way has not had that like traumatic experience that Lauren had, but she's a fighter as well, and she's also globally developmentally delayed, and she was just actually a couple weeks ago diagnosed as well, so she's also on the spectrum. Um, and so with that said, to be able to give me the lens of being in healthcare, um, it was always really important for me to have like that humanity component to it and to
Yes.
reflect on our patients and look and treat them as if though they were our family. I
Mhm.
think the journeys through my daughters that I've had to take has definitely given me a much different lens and perspective, especially looking at the types of services that they needed during a very critical time.
Mhm.
And so that type of healthcare during a very um during a time or a season of life that is incredibly challenging or critical. um oh, that's just something else. So to be on that other end of the spectrum during that time period,
Uh-huh.
I think has given me I've leaned a lot into my faith, one to kind of get me through.
Mhm.
But I've had to be that voice for my children, for my family,
Right.
because I've navigated healthcare from a professional standpoint, right? And so living in that world and knowing so much about that world, and then having to, in many ways, still learn so much more,
Right.
um, and from an advocacy perspective, because it hasn't
Mhm.
been easy. And there's been many times where I've had to be that voice for my daughters, because up until a couple months ago, my daughter was nonverbal and had
Okay.
to use an AAC device. And so it has been just such a journey, but I feel that all of what I've gone through um, is important that I share, so that other parents that are going through similar hard seasons of life, or these really rare medical conditions, uh, and going through that through their child, that they
Mhm.
know that they're not alone, that they know that, I hope that my story and the story of my daughters can provide them hope. I think being a
Yes.
dealer of hope is so important, especially in the world that we live in today.
Mhm.
And so that's why I feel so blessed and fortunate, to have found you, and that is exactly what you are doing. You're shining a light, so brightly, and you're allowing and giving permission to so many others to shine
Mhm.
brightly as well. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank you for being vulnerable to share your experience. And, I was just sitting listening as you were talking and hearing the compassion in your voice and how you have shown that not just in the professional world, in the leadership world, but at home, and how, thinking back to supervisors that I've had, it was the ones that had empathy. It was the ones who had compassion. It was the ones who were human first. It wasn't just about the bottom line, which the bottom line is important at the end of the day. But when you have that compassion, you are going to have people who want to work for you. You are going to have people who, when you're advocating, in your personal life, are going to listen, are going to want to help and support you. So thank you so much for sharing that story. I believe stories, they inspire, they heal, they connect others. And so I know there's someone listening today there's a mother listening, there's a father listening, there's someone listening today who is going to hear your story and say, okay, I can get through this. I know that it's hard, but I can do it. So thank you for sharing that. I love the name Stewarded Path. That just, I know it has meaning. So I want to ask you, what does stewardship mean to you, and how does it inform your coaching approach?
Yeah. So stewarded path, first and foremost, stewarded path is what I have felt called to do. I'd love to just kind of like start from the standpoint of like, entrepreneurship is something, even though I have my MBA, even though I am pursuing my doctoral degree in business, it is
Uh-huh.
something I would have never imagined for myself, stepping into that world of entrepreneurship, having my own business. Even
Uh-huh.
though I can do turnarounds like it's no one's business, I can do it in my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I can run a business and, be very successful at it for someone else. And gosh, have I gone through a journey where, um, I I'll have to say in 2026, the word of the year is obedience for me.
Uh-huh.
So stewarded path is that's what my calling is. That's what I've been called to do and entrusted with regards to being, having that as my medium to be able to share my gifts, with others, because these gifts are not for me, right?
Uh-huh.
They're, to be shared with the world and to serve and make a positive impact. And so when I think about stewarded path and why that name, it's a way to honor what God has entrusted, me with, what he has entrusted my clients with.
Right.
So this could be like your gifts, this could be, your capacity, your family, your leadership, your healing, um, no matter what like season you are in. And so
Uh-huh.
how can you take what you are entrusted with and care for it well.
Right.
Um, I think it's really, really important that um, that we are good stewards of our resources, right? And that we are also good stewards of our gifts, of what we've been
Yes.
entrusted with. And that can be hard for a lot of people to slow
Yeah.
down and figure out, okay, well, what are these gifts?
Mhm.
And what have I been trusted with? And then how can I care for them and share them with the world in the way that I was intended to?
Yeah. And we hear a lot of talk about, finding your purpose and, really taking ownership of that. And sometimes people think that that means just being busy or just, feeling productive. But how would you define finding your purpose and how does that
Ooh,
really manifest?
yeah. For me, what I'm looking at uh, the way that I try to when the way that I or how I look at the work um, that I do with my clients, uh,
Mhm.
when we're looking at purpose, discernment, calling, and integrating that into the coaching container and what they would
Mhm.
like to focus on, um, we're looking at, okay, what is the path that you've been entrusted with to walk down and how can you do it in a way where you have clarity and conviction and courage and confidence and do it all with grace.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
love
that
that.
is what success is.
Mhm. It's not what other people are doing. A lot of times we get in that comparison trap and with social media and everything going on, and it's like, it has to look like this. No, it just has to be genuine and authentic and who you are, and what your purpose is. And so I think when people get comfortable with that and realize it's not what you always see online, but it's who you are.
Yeah, and in a way where I think authenticity is so important.
Mhm.
So knowing that you can live your purpose, live your calling in a way that is authentic to who you are,
Yes.
and how you show up, and that you don't have to change yourself for others or to be this one thing, whether it's a leader or you fill in the blank. You can do it and still show up authentically you, and so giving yourself that permission.
Mhm.
Um, in doing that and ensuring that your path is um, sustainable and realistic and meaningful to you and your values. I think that that's also incredibly important.
Yeah. What are some of the common struggles that you see in women that you work with around leadership, career transition, motherhood? What are some of those warning signs that you see popping up?
Yeah. I will have to say a lot of my clients, like the common one of the most common things is I feel stuck. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. I just feel like there's just so much chaos around me and I don't even know w- where to begin with regards to trying to organize like my life or make a decision. I am just running on overdrive and going
Right.
from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And I am just surviving.
Mhm. And
I,
we do that a lot, just surviving. Like, how am I going to survive just day to day,
yeah,
And I think we've become conditioned almost, and I'm sure you may have experienced this or you've worked with women or other clients who've experienced it where we're just kind of putting the band-aid on. We talk a lot about self-care and it sounds good. We're going to get the massage or we're going to do do this, we're going to do that, we're going to take the vacation, but like the whole time we're doing these self-care things, we're still thinking about work. We're still thinking about, okay, am I doing enough at home? How do you help the clients you work with really tap into self-care and like sustainable self-care practices?
Yeah, I think that's such an important question because a lot of the work that I do with the women that I work with, it's even empowering them with um, for them to know that, like, hey, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, like, that's not self care. These are just basic, like,
Right.
human needs,
Mhm.
right? Um, because even I was, I think back during my postpartum, right? And it's
Mhm.
just like, for me, it was brushing my teeth was that's what I considered to be self care. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not self care.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, the work that I do, it starts with um, providing them with insight on like on nervous system
Mhm.
and normalizing things for them because a lot of what we do with regards to going from like fire to fire to fire in all of our worlds and all of the hats um that we have, all the roles that we play, we lose touch with ourself and what our body needs and those signals
Yeah.
that our body is telling us, hey, hold on, wait, don't forget to put that oxygen mask first because
Mhm.
we want to be and to do all things for everyone else, and we put ourselves last.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that I do from the very beginning with my clients is really looking at how the nervous system comes into play, right? And better understanding how to work with our nervous system instead of ways that we work against it unknowingly,
Right.
you know?
Mhm.
And so we start there because that is also one of the most common places that
Yeah.
my clients are just not aware of the level of impact that, our autonomic nervous system. And so that's why I bring certain approaches into my coaching. It's neuroscience informed, it's evidence based. So we're looking at these frameworks, these tools, these systems that have research behind it,
Right.
that there's been rigor, that shows, hey, these are the tools that are most effective.
Yeah.
Um, and and it's important for me to have a number of tools in my toolbox that then I can share because everyone is
Mhm.
different and one tool might help one client and not the next. And that's okay. And that's where we look and I like to look at it as experimenting, right?
Yeah.
If one type of um, experiment or tool does not work for one client, okay, we're gathering data points, right? So that
Mhm.
we're able to look at any trends. We're able to do an analysis and then see, okay, what can we take to continue to build on this foundation so that we're one step closer to what your body needs in particular and really individualizing
Mhm.
um, the path that we're on together.
Yeah. I love that because, a lot of times we think that there's a quick fix. It's stuff we've been dealing with for a long time, sometimes decades, right? And so really getting people to slow down and say, like, wait, this is something that is happening within your body. Like, as you mentioned, within your nervous system, like there is something going on. And so we've got to get to the root of that first, before we start diving into, what we think are shortcuts or, quick fixes. It's like, we got to do the work first, and then things can really start to improve and be sustainable because it goes back again like we were talking about with self-care, getting out of bed. People like, I got out of bed today. That's my win for the day. And for some people that is their win, but it's like there's so much more, right? There's so much more than just the basic needs and helping women and people to see that. Can you share about your collective that you have, the La Doctora Collective? What gap were you trying to fill, and why is representation and leadership so important?
Yeah. So La Doctora Collective is essentially a platform, a community that is in the works. Essentially, there's close to 2% of the US population that has a doctoral degree,
Okay.
and only 1% of that 2% are Latinas.
Mm,
And so as I've been going through my first year of my doctoral degree, I've been really reaching out to and leaning into second years, third years alum at my program, and in other communities that I'm in to get insight, to get nuggets of wisdom,
mhm.
because my research is really important to me,
Yeah.
because it's merging both my professional and personal worlds together and addressing systemic issues, multiple systemic issues.
Mhm.
And so as I'm on this journey, it's really important that I do it right and that I do
Yeah.
this well. And so with that, I've been trying to lean in on those that have already gone through this process. And I realized rather quickly, like, gosh, there isn't a lot of Latinas that
Mhm.
have their doctorate degree. And I've noticed for just women in general that I've been connected with that are currently going through their doctoral journey and that they need, hey, I have this questionnaire or I'm looking for people to participate in my study. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why do we not have a platform or just
Mhm.
something where we can be in community and support one another?
Yeah,
And, LinkedIn, yes, is great, but I feel like there's something missing and there's something
definitely.
that needs to happen to be able to bring everyone together, especially from a representation standpoint. When
Mhm.
you were asking, like, why is this important? I think for the doctoras that are currently in that journey of currently that doctoral journey, I think it's important because being a scholar can be so lonely.
Yes.
Um, being in the middle of, like, just all this research, and so being able to have others there that know what you're going
Mhm.
through to continue to, um, push you and help you get through to some of the really harder, um, parts of the doctoral journey. And then for those that have already completed it, I think it's so important that we shine a light on like that brilliance and
Yes.
what they have accomplished,
Mhm.
especially for future generations from a representation standpoint for the future students, college students, graduate students, for them to know like, hey, there's Dr. Ryan, and she looks just like me, and she was able to achieve what? All these amazing things. Like, if
Yeah.
she can do it, I can do it too.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
is so important, I think, for me as I'm a first generation Mexican American, first generation everything.
Yeah.
First one in both sides of my family to go to college,
Mhm.
to have my master's degree, to be a first gen professional, and now
Mhm.
doctoral student.
Yeah.
And so representation and role modeling has always been really important in what I've done throughout my life for my family and now for my daughters, right? Leaving that legacy for them um, is really important to me.
I love that, and that resonates with me so much. And my journey through my doctorate program, and you talked about like the challenges. When you get the dissertation feedback, and you're like, "Oh my goodness," and I can remember having my group of other Black women that were going through the program, and we were just talking and sharing ideas, motivating one another. But the mentorship part is so important, and that really helped me to keep pushing forward even when it got difficult and challenging. So I love what you're doing, and the work that you're building in the community is going to continue to grow, and you're going to have other people mentoring other people, and so I can't wait to have you back to talk about how that continues to expand, because I know that is going to just continue to grow. For someone who's listening, a woman who's feeling overwhelmed by just the demands of career, motherhood, caregiver, what would you want them to know?
That's a heavy question. Um,
Your time.
There's a lot that I would want them to know, but I think if I were to have to pick one thing is that, like, you matter
Huh?
so much. Your voice matters, this world needs you, um, and to just take their time with things, right?
Yeah.
I think that we, as I alluded to earlier, we're just so used to like rush, 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 go to from one
Mhm.
thing to the next thing, and we're not used to slowing things down and
Mhm.
taking our time with things because we think that there's just this pressure to perform.
Right.
Um, we're constantly comparing ourselves,
Mhm.
and it's okay to take your time with things.
Yeah.
There's seasons of building. There's just different seasons that we go through in life, and that's okay.
Yep. It's
And
okay. It's not gonna always look the same.
it's
It's
not
not.
going to look like how a lot of the time it's not going to look how we pictured
Yeah.
things to look, right?
Mhm.
And so, yes, honoring and even if we need to grieve that, like that's okay too.
Yeah.
Um, and knowing that even if things didn't turn out the way that we wanted, things can still turn out so beautiful.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to always look at that reframe of like looking at life from that glass half full instead of half empty perspective. We can get so overwhelmed and tied to just the negative things that are happening in life, right? But looking at those glimmers are so important to keep us going from like through all those valleys that come our way, right? And being able to like learn how can I ride this wave? Because this isn't going to be the first wave, and it's definitely isn't the last wave that I have to
Yeah.
ride in life as
Yeah.
women, because we also take on so much
Mhm.
and do so much. And so, how can I still show up for myself, for others as well, how I would like to, but know that I can do things in a way where I can take my time, where I can take care of myself because that's important too,
Yeah.
uh, and still tend to my purpose, my passion, my calling as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And can you share also where can people find you? Where can they track you down? Talk a little bit about your businesses, the services and support that you provide.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I have a number of, of things that I'm building that I'm doing. So I do consulting work with private equity firms and investment firms during their due diligence process. So I have LW advisory group for that purpose. Um, that really just comes through my years of experience in healthcare and kind of being a subject matter expert in a number of healthcare sectors. And that's great, but that's not exactly what I'm passionate about and what
Right.
I feel my calling really is. And that's where Stewarded Path comes in.
Mhm.
And so stewardedpath.com, which should be up within the next couple of weeks. I've
Yeah.
been building and really working on the branding component and the website, but that's where my coaching comes in. And so I do business coaching, life coaching, career, professional, leadership coaching. Through
Mhm.
there, I also do speaking engagements and leadership development workshops. So I work with hospitals, organizations to
Okay.
put together and curate leadership development, either full day workshops or just be a presenter
Uh-huh.
as part of one of their leadership development like conferences. So I do that under Stewarded Path as well. And then for La Doctora Collective, that's currently still being built out with regards to the community and the platform, and then eventually a podcast that will come through it. Once again, there's a lot that's kind of like going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, like as a mom of 2 littles, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and then also in my doctoral journey, and so I'm
Yes.
also trying to pace myself,
Mhm.
and do things well and do things right,
Right.
given the impact that I want to make and what I'm being called to do, and
Mhm.
so really um, tending to these gifts, and ensuring that right now I would say within the next 3 to 6 months, we'll have La Doctora Collective website up and running, and
Okay.
potentially within the next year having, the platform up and running,
Okay.
and podcasts eventually, so I'm excited for that. But
Nice.
for now, Stewarded Path,
Mhm.
is something where, I can be reached also on my LinkedIn. I'm incredibly active on my LinkedIn. I have a
Okay.
newsletter through my LinkedIn, so it's, linkedin.com/, Lorena, Wade, dash MBA is
Okay.
also where you can find me.
Perfect. And we'll have all that information down so folks can start following you and reading your newsletter and getting all that wisdom. And I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for as you continue through this journey. And, I always tell people, appreciate the process. Don't just think about the end goal. And hearing you talk, you're appreciating every aspect of that journey, the challenges, how you've grown from it. And so you're such a wonderful role model, especially for Latinas, for Brown and Black women who are working towards their purpose, working towards their future. So thank you so much. The future Dr. Wade is going to be back
Mm,
on, and we're going to have you back on. Those 2 years are going to fly by before you know it. And so thank you. Are there any just last comments that you would like to leave the listeners with just regarding, finding your source of strength and staying encouraged?
yeah, I think that one of the things that I tend to speak to quite a bit is, to colleagues, to clients, to just people that I meet through like outreach and networking events, and reminding them like that they are enough. You are enough.
Right.
Because we're always also, not only are we going from thing to thing to thing, but I think that with the not living in the now,
Mm.
with the not being so present, we're always thinking that we need just one more thing before we're ready. I just
Right.
need one more certification. I just need one more degree. I just need one more. No, you are enough.
You are
You are
enough.
enough.
I love that. And that is a perfect way to wrap up this episode. And I hope listeners that you go back, you listen to this, watch this again, especially if you're needing to feel encouraged or be reminded that you are enough. So thank you, Lorena, for being on today. Can't wait to have you back on in the future. And audience, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new episode.
Thank you.